So we are currently in the Egghead Island Arc, where we learn of the Void Century having more advancements than the current era we are in the One Piece story. And with, of course, the Iron Giant waking up after Luffy activated Gear 5th, which is a Delver ability from the Void Century, Joy Boy himself, it inspired this video where we have, of course, characters like Frankie, who literally become a new person after time skip because of the advancements that Frankie did. And of course, we saw in Whole Cake Island characters like Judge Finsmoke, of course, Sanji's father, and his superpower kids, his Power Ranger kids in Germa, Sanji's siblings, and their crazy abilities and unique powers that were being showcased. Or even Sanji, where we witnessed him using the raid suit in Wano and like just going ham versus characters like Page One. And even though he did destroy before fighting Queen, we love to see the little moments of the raid suit against King, which was so cool to see a vice captain to Yonko fighting raid suit Sanji. But speaking of Queen, Queen is also a scientist that used to be on Mads with, of course, Vegapunk, Judge Vinsmoke, Caesar, even Stussy's involvement, who of course used to be on the rocks. But yeah, Queen is definitely really advanced as a cyborg himself, and he could do everything that Germa could do when it comes to the Judge's kids. So Queen is definitely another person who has advanced himself to another level. And now we're getting one of the most advanced characters in the One Piece story. Not just his character, but also his body physically as a pacifista. Like Kuma could use Kizaru lasers. We learned that in Egghead Island, like Kizaru lasers, like that was a development of the pacifista beam. And I also mentioned Stussy, who was getting a flashback now in God Valley, how she got cloned and was actually a part of CP0. So that's how far science could really advance some of these things developing in the One Piece story. All I'm saying is the greatest scientist of all time, who is also friends with Luffy's father, Monkey D Dragon, and actually has taken a liking to Luffy during the Egghead Island Arc. And I think that this is a great time to look at not Luffy advancing in hockey like we've seen before, not Luffy advancing in Delver abilities like we've seen before. Yes, that is more important, but it'll be a refreshing to see Luffy get a great gift from Vegapunk that will be related, I think, related to Joy Boy in the Ancient Kingdom when it comes to the advanced tech. But I think there's so many deep things that Vegapunk can do to make Luffy really more cool and epic, because Luffy loves, if you ever seen Luffy look at Frankie's advancements, or when he gets some cool armor or something, Luffy loves it. So I think it would be very awesome to see Luffy get something like that from Vegapunk, where he loves it and he uses it while fighting as well. But if you want to find out what I mean, you got to stick to the end of the video to really understand what I truly am talking about. Now, before I actually do a deep dive on what Luffy will receive from Vegapunk and what I have as an idea from the evidence in the manga, I want to talk about how throughout the manga, Luffy is not a dull fruit and hockey advancement character. He's actually used other things to defeat characters many times in the story. I want to start off early on. Yes, I'm talking before the actual chapter 200. Yeah, chapter 199 to be exact. Luffy's first time hitting Crocodile, a Logia, a powerful Logia. That people don't understand. Crocodile now is a 1.9 billion berry man and a part of a Yonko crew in Cross Guild. Yo, he's very respected in the One Piece world. And Luffy was assisted by equipment to defeat him. And I just remember Alabasta and the shock that Crocodile had when Luffy hits him with, of course, that double knee attack to his face. And of course, this could foreshadow Armin Haki, because like Crocodile's like, there's no way he's doing this right now, because he's like, Crocodile has been hit by Haki before. We've seen it in the story with Jozu, and we of course we know he's been in the game for a long time. So even since Roger's death, so he's been out here. And while Luffy's laying the beat down on Crocodile, we see Cobra also in shock of how Crocodile's just getting his ass whooped. And it makes me think about how Cobra told Sabo to, of course, go tell Luffy and Vivi their ancient lineage of the D initial, and like that was so important, which I'm going to talk about in another video, but I thought that was cool. One of my favorite parts was also seeing Nico Robin, who's not officially a part of the Straw Hat Pirates, but the reaction, especially because she was the one, like, if without her, Luffy would never be able to pull off this craziness when it comes to actually laying down the beat down on Crocodile. It was all because Nico Robin saved him. And people think Luffy's just an idiot, yo. They think he's a dumbass, but you have to understand, Luffy's a battle genius. Yes, he's not the most logical guy, but he has an innate instinct when it comes to battling. It's a natural genius in fighting. And so when the water spilled on Crocodile's arm, that's when he realized that, oh, water is your weakness. And of course says you're afraid of water, and now you can hit him. Like, it's crazy, because let's be honest here, Luffy's been doing this type of thing with hockey. Like, honestly, like, he's been doing it for some reason, but I prefer this one when he actually uses something else other than hockey, because the whole hockey blooming, and that's a whole nother explanation when it comes to hockey itself, which I will do a video on. But yeah, I thought it was very cool how Luffy was being very creative in actually trying to defeat Crocodile. If he just beat Crocodile with hockey during Alabasta, yeah, it would have been cool, but let's be honest here, this is much more fun. And then of course you see Crocodile, like, he starts dodging the attacks from Luffy, so he's not going to just let Luffy go ham with this new water technique. And of course, it's like he also can suck the moisture out of Luffy. I know it's a pause moment, but you guys know what I mean. And Luffy forgot about that. Like, that was a big thing how Luffy lost the first time to him. And I just thought it was very cool how Crocodile, yes, he's getting his ass whooped, but he's still adapting to Luffy's new form in a sense. And then we see, of course, Luffy drinks the water that he's been using the entire time. And this is where we see it. Not a gear, not a advancement of hockey, it was water Luffy, guys. Yes, water Luffy was, to me, was the first time that Luffy used something else to really put the beat down on an opponent. And let's be honest here, like, he says Crocodile's own line as only having a strong Dofu, like, you got to be strong as a person as well. Remember Crocodile told Luffy that in the first fight? Well, he comes back with, of course, the water, and yeah, he's saying, I'm water Luffy now, drinks the water, and he's telling Crocodile, like, oh, I'm definitely not just a Dofu user, I'm very, very strong as well as a person. I thought it was also very hilarious how Luffy, using this water in the fight, he gets fed up and he actually tries to take the entire barrel of water and throw it on Crocodile. In which Crocodile, he's not like a rookie, guys. He expects this, so I thought it was very funny. It was a very funny moment to me. It's like Luffy was fed up. I thought it was very hilarious how Luffy was panicking. Like, he almost lost the barrel that, let's be honest, without that, he couldn't even fight Crocodile. That's what made him water Luffy, so I thought that was funny. And Crocodile says, without the barrel, you ain't doing shit, pretty much. Like, without that water in that barrel, you ain't doing shit. So Luffy actually breaks the barrel, which just shocks Crocodile. And Crocodile's like, this guy's unhinged, this guy's crazy, he's wilding. Luffy then goes on to actually drink the entire barrel of water, not just a little bit, the entire barrel of water, to officially become water Luffy. And of course, Crocodile's shocked. It reminds me of when, like, remember we saw Doflamingo react to Luffy. It's like, are you really in this Gear 4 form? This is how I felt right here. Crocodile was shocked, of course, and there's water leaking out of Luffy, and we see Nico Rothman laughing as well. It was just a very interesting moment. And of course, this all just leads to Crocodile being pissed off, and he charges at Luffy, who shoots water beams like he's some sort of Pokemon. Like, let's be honest here, this kind of reminds me of, yes, we might never see a water Delphi ability, but this would be one of the closest things to it when the guy is shooting water beams at an opponent. And this water beam, of course, leads to Luffy hitting Crocodile with a devastating Gumma Gumma no Bazooka. And let's be honest here, he says also, I'm not playing around. Like I said, it reminds me of Doflamingo's reaction to Gear 4 Luffy. It also reminds me of Kaido fight when Luffy was in Gear 5th and all the silly things he's doing, but very effective as well. Now, of course, this bazooka leads to Crocodile actually getting serious and taking water Luffy seriously and turns the entire surrounding to dust. Of course, Luffy shoots 3 more water beams at him like he's some sort of Pokemon, like he's Squirtle of some sort, and Crocodile uses his hand to absorb all the water beams, which was very let's be honest, that was very demotivating. And of course, he continues to dehydrate everything around him. Crocodile then, of course, then gets a hold of Luffy and beats him again with that, of course, dehydrating attack. And Luffy tries to shoot water beams at him, but it actually misses. But the water actually saves him. That's the interesting part. It actually saves him. That is the end, of course, the legendary water Luffy. I know it was a very gag form, but let's be honest here. Later on, Luffy would actually use his own blood to actually defeat Crocodile. The reason why I'm not including Blood Luffy, because that's actually Luffy's blood. It's a part of him. The water was something else, and that's why I think it's very creative. But there's also many other times where Luffy did a similar thing to water Luffy. It's actually the next arc. Yes, I'm talking about one of the most legendary arcs, which I'm going to be doing an entire breakdown on Dripko. Subscribe to that channel, guys. Dripko is going to be dropping an entire breakdown on Skypiea. But the next arc, Skypiea, we see Enel. He wields and forges gold onto Luffy's arm. And this, like, let's be honest, when this happened, everyone in the fan base is like, okay, Luffy's nerfed now. He has an entire piece of gold forged onto him. And then Enel goes on to kick Luffy off of the Arc's Maxim, Enel's ship. And there's a gold spear on Luffy's arm. And since, like, let's be honest here, it's crazy because the reason why Enel did this because he's like, I can't afford for Luffy to injure me again because Luffy doesn't get affected by his attacks. And he even says a joke, keep the gold for your valiant efforts. And Enel's talking this shit too as well. Luffy then realizes he can't get that stupid golden ball off of him. So then he tries to carry it with him back to, of course, Enel. I will give Luffy the doubt. It shows his intense will and, of course, great power as well. We then see Robin again, and of course, again, Robin is not officially on the Straw Hat Pirates here. She's on the crew, but she's not really on the crew. And she noticed that big old golden ball on Luffy, and she's like, "What is going on?" Of course, he just ignores it and mentions how he has to hit that golden bell. And let's be honest here, that's when I knew this was going to be deeper. When Luffy's obsessing over something, when Luffy obsesses over something, it's very, how to say this, abstract. It's like a deeper meaning, guys. Remember that always. Luffy then begins running on Jack the Beanstalk with that huge old golden ball on his arm, and all I could think of is Elbaf. Like, it's gonna be crazy when we see Elbaf, because it's gonna be a similar thing like Jack the Beanstalk, Tall-Line, and Elbaf, and how they're like, it's gonna be making Elbaf and Skypiea very connected. But that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. We then see Nami trying to catch up, and she's riding on this, like, pretty much a jet ski in a sense. And Luffy is running so fast, even with the golden ball, that it's hard for her to even catch up. And he's determined, and he's not gonna give Enel the golden bell, because it's, like I said, it's very deep here, the golden bell. Of course, we're knowing Mont Blanc, Cricket, Nolan, and all that. Even Enel looks back down, and he's very impressed that Luffy made it that far up Jack the Beanstalk with that huge golden ball weighing him down. Like, Enel obviously used the golden ball as a nerf, not as a gift, and Luffy still surpassing the limits. Shows you how much Luffy would do. And we see this obsession with this golden bell, which puzzles Nami that Luffy has, because he already has gold in his arm. But like I said, it's deeper, and Nami even says there's no need for revenge on Enel. We can literally just leave Skypiea and just like ignore Enel. But he says, nah, yo, because El Dorado does exist. Yes, that's what Luffy says. Yeah, and that's right. It's all connected to one of my favorite characters. You guys seen our profile picture for the last, like, almost a decade, Nolan. And telling the truth, how Nolan wasn't a liar. And that's why I have that profile picture, because when you're making discussion videos and discussing One Piece, you talk about a lot of future plot points, and they might think you're capping, but when that shit comes true, bro, they definitely don't give you your credit where credit's due. I have made so many theories that became true and no one talks about it. If you go to the comments of those videos, they all are disrespecting the theory. So I feel like Nolan, in a sense, I never really talked about that, but I can resonate with that. And Luffy, he has to prove a point that Nolan wasn't a capper to Mont Blanc, Cricket, and his boys that are just keep on searching for it, of course. Luffy says it himself, if Luffy rings the golden bell, they wouldn't have to search the ocean floor for it. And like, we know that they've been doing it, they're gonna do it until they die. Luffy says it himself. Then we see one of the most badass moments. Luffy enters Enel's final attack, the Kingdom Comb, which, let's be honest here, it's super dangerous just to do this as a regular human, let alone a Delphi user. And he does some sort of Gumma Gumma no firework attack with, of course, Golden Peony, which is just an array of the golden ball with just punches inside the Kingdom Comb, which is intense. This leads to a weird electric discharge, said by Nami herself, the Weather Queen. And the gold in his arm is being used as a conductor. This was said by Enel. So he's using this nerf as a positive. That's what Luffy's character in a nutshell. Like, he'll always try to get the positive out of something. And he tries to destroy, like, Enel's trying to destroy the country before Luffy can actually discharge his final attack, Kingdom Comb. This, of course, leads to everyone doing a prayer. And their prayer is answered by Luffy, of course, going ham. Like, just crazy discharging it. And let's be honest here. Luffy says, let the sun shine, which is way more spooky, because we currently know that Luffy's literally known as the sun god Nika. So the fact that they're praying and all that, that's a whole nother topic for another day, guys. Like I said, Skypiea is one of the most important arcs. That's why I'm gonna do a whole deep dive on my Dripco channel. Then this golden Luffy sets his eyes on the big bad Enel, and as he says, I'll bring it, like he says, I will ring that golden bell alongside you as well. So he's trying to do some pain to Enel, and not just, of course, make sure that El Dorado, they know it exists, but also give this guy Enel an ass whooping along the way. Of course, Luffy has some deterrents. Luffy gets stabbed by this golden trident. After kicking his face, we see he kick Enel's face with a devastating attack. And with the golden ball pulling his arm back, if he gets that trident off, he will of course go back down. So Luffy has a decision to make. So Luffy decides, F it, yo. He takes the trident off of him and he's about to fall down, but he rockets himself back and challenges Enel again in a gold off. Yes, with your golden trident and this golden ball in my arm, so I can ring that golden bell. and hits him with a golden rifle that, let's be honest here, Enel even comments on the speed before he gets hit by it. You know, when you comment on the speed, you know that this guy is about to pack some power as well. And Luffy rocks the rifle onto the golden bell, solving the 400-year mystery as he yells, "Reach, reach," of course. He's talking about the people down under in the blue sea, while also simultaneously escaping the golden ball as well. And that's why I'm saying Luffy and Skypiea, people just think he just beat Enel. No, this was a golden ball Luffy that was doing amazing things with gold. But let's fast forward a bit, let's speed up the process a bit, because we all know Water 790's lobby, Luffy actually got a power up that had nothing to do with an outlier. But in chapter 476, this is where it starts. Luffy is becoming a master swordsman by taking a marine swordsman shadow. Yes, this is Moria's ability. This is more unique because he's taking someone else's double ability and using it for himself. And this was the preview to Luffy using, this was a preview to Luffy doing some of the most greatest things we've ever seen Luffy do. That's right. Now, of course, they plan to put all these shadows into Luffy, and they tell Luffy you have a 10-minute timer before all the shadows return to their owner. And they tell Luffy straight up, yo, we can only take 2 or 3 ourselves. So they assume that Luffy could take maybe 20 to 30 shadows, which was obviously a safe assumption because they don't know who Luffy is. And of course, Luffy proves them wrong by taking every single shadow they had, which added up to 100 shadows. And of course, that was crazy. I know people are gonna say, wait, Moria took 1,000 shadows. It's different though. Moria is that's his Delphin ability. He should be able to take that much, and he didn't really do much with it. He had a crazy power and strength, able to pretty much just split an island with through a bark, but he couldn't do much with it because he had too much shadows. But Luffy, when he took the 100 shadows, guys, he was different. And they said, go show Moria Nightmare, and Nightmare Luffy began to continue into the story. And it makes me think about how when Luffy got to Sabaody, Shaki tells him that Rayleigh's 100 times stronger. And of course, even Egghead Island, Luffy says we're 100 times stronger to Kizaru since Sabaody. But now I'm thinking, if Luffy keeps saying that, Luffy should be 100 times stronger than Nightmare Luffy. So Nightmare Luffy could be comparative to some of the post-time skill stuff we saw from Luffy, guys. And this was without no haki. Now, of course, the fun begins when, of course, Oz shows up to fight Luffy. And, of course, Oz has Luffy's shadow. And he goes ham. He thinks he's stepping on Nami and Usopp and destroying them. So they're not even recognizable. This is ordered by Moria himself. But Luffy asks him real quick, who do you think you're stepping on? Showing the amazing speed. I didn't even see this myself. Luffy to, of course, save Usopp and then save Nami. That speed blitz he was doing in Nightmare Luffy was intense. And then we finally see this design with Luffy with this blue skin and way more stronger muscles. He's just huge. He looks like he took steroids, guys. This guy literally looks like he was 260. That's a reference. If anyone gets it, they get it. But yeah, Luffy looks huge. And let's be honest here, even his own crew, so Nami didn't recognize him. Nightmare Luffy was definitely a complete 180 to who we know Luffy as. And Moria was so confused, wait, you can transform? But then he realizes himself, oh no, this guy definitely used my shadows to get stronger. And of course, Luffy confronts his own Delphin being used by a Titan-sized man. People don't understand how powerful Oz was. Yo, Oz had the body of the Continent Drifter. He was dragging continents. That's how strong Oz was. You've seen Oz Jr. fight the Vice Admiral Giants, not regular giants, Vice Admiral Giants, and was low diffing them. Now look at Oz Sr. with, of course, Luffy's shadow, with Luffy's Delphin ability. They don't understand how incomparable, how we can't even understand how powerful Oz was. So it was crazy when Oz did that rifle attack. It was intense. But of course, Nightmare Luffy got all of our jaws to the ground when he stops the attack, not just by clashing with it. He just puts his hand out. It reminds me of the iconic Goku Trunks scene where Trunks is destroying Frieza, and then he tries to do that stuff to Goku, and Goku with his finger just stops the sword. Yeah, I ain't Frieza, yo. I'm the one who beat Frieza. Then of course, Luffy then punches Oz and sends him flying, which is another feat, yo. He's sending that big of a character flying with one punch, yo. This guy's reminding me of One Punch Man, for goodness sake. Luffy then teleports and of course suplexes. When I say teleport, of course I mean he's just so fast that it looks like he's teleporting, and suplexes Oz, which remember when Kid suplexed Kaido and we were like, damn, that was crazy. He did it to someone way bigger than Kaido, Oz, and that was a crazy feat. Honestly, it even is more of a feat than when Big Mom slammed Queen. Remember when Big Mom slammed Queen? This feat is intense, guys. And as Lola protects Nightmare Luffy's crewmates, of course, Luffy is just laying the beat down on Oz, and this form is it's just remarkable. And somebody even questions what kind of creature can make Oz fly like that. That's what people understand. He's not just beating Oz, yo. He's making that size of a character fly with the punches. They're also a little bit tripping about how this demon form, like this demon form of Oz 500 years ago, and the teamed up with his master, the warlord, who was able to fight Kaido back in the days, are both getting their ass beat. But yeah, it just shows you how powerful Nightmare Luffy was. And as Luffy whoops both their asses, Lola Pirates explain Luffy's power up and how they were scared to do this to Luffy and apologize for putting Luffy through this to, of course, the Straw Hat Pirates. Just showing you how much Luffy put himself through to become Nightmare Luffy. We even see Luffy ragdolling Oz. Yo, he's not just beating his ass, he's ragdolling him. And it makes me think of the iconic scene of Kaido getting ragdolled by Gear 5th Luffy when we first saw that, like just slamming him back and forth and back and forth. Nightmare Luffy even uses a sword like he was Zoro of some sort. The power that we're seeing from Nightmare Luffy is shocking. And he cuts up Oz, and I'm just thinking, he doesn't understand. We're not really understanding how powerful this is, because he's beating on Oz, but Oz doesn't feel pain, so Oz is always going to get back up. But Luffy, imagine Luffy did it to another character in the One Piece story, yo. Nightmare Luffy itself needs to be power scaled, and Dripco will do it in the future, guys, so subscribe to that channel. Of course, Moria tries to run, but Luffy hits him in the face point blank with a pistol, a Gomu Gomu no pistol, and he hits him in the face with, like, it's crazy. I think that's probably one of the strongest attacks Mori's been hit in the face with, honestly. We also then see Oz try to battle, but of course, like, it's crazy because like Oz is trying to do this battle axe move that trademarked by Luffy. Luffy should copyright Oz if I'm being completely honest. And Luffy breathes in and then out and then does Gomu Gomu no Storm. Yes, Storm that destroys both Oz and Moria and just lays the beat down on them. The after effect of this attack has all the zombies in Thriller Bark just in complete shock, guys, and awe as Oz is just falling down. It's just intense. And after this attack, Oz is knocked down and the shadows are escaping Luffy's body. So this was kind of like the conclusion to what Luffy was doing, of course, Nightmare Luffy. And yes, the shadows escaped his body and Luffy wins over Moria and Oz together. But of course, Oz doesn't feel pain, so he gets back up. So later on, Luffy will have to break his spine with the help of their fellow Straw Hat Pirates. This is just regular Luffy, not Nightmare Luffy. Well, you could say Gears, just regular Luffy. And then of course, Moria woke up later after that. And of course, I already answered how he has 1,000 shadows, but Gear 2nd, Gear 3rd combined, Luffy just went ham and did Moria in. Now I'm gonna talk about this real quickly. Luffy, of course, in Empire Down does have like a short stint of him using some wax from Mr. 3 to get boxing gloves and boots, because of course he needed it against Magellan, who we know that the poison Luffy got from him. Now Luffy doesn't need it currently because he's immune to poison and he has Haki, advanced armor Haki, but still it was pretty cool to see Luffy be native versus this character. That was like, it was crazy, guys. And Luffy was crying of how cool he looked. That was pretty funny, yo. And then of course I like to call it Champion Luffy because Luffy used a champion rifle. And he was so surprised he can now touch Magellan without getting poisoned. Of course, Magellan later on just used Hell's Judgment. And then when that came out, Luffy tried to Gomu Gomu no Champion Stamp, but that didn't work. And that's why this form is so short. And that's what I'm not really going to talk about in depth. It doesn't really need to be. Yeah, and I think the final thing I want to talk about is when Luffy ate all the biscuit soldiers and became a fat ass after, like, you know, Cracker kept on supplying the biscuit soldiers. Luffy was like, yeah, I'm gonna have a big appetite, let me use my brain here, battle genius, let's eat all those biscuit soldiers. And this is where we see a Gear 4 tank man. You're saying, why are you said you're not gonna talk about Delta ability advancement and Haki advancement, because Gear 4 uses Haki and Delta ability, and Tank Man is no exception. Well, the reason why is because this is a different type of Gear 4. Tank Man is a stuffed version of Gear 4, and he only uses it once. This is the only appearance in the series, and it kind of reminds me of Luffy drank all the water. Luffy uses something else like water or the shadows, and here the case is biscuit soldiers. He uses biscuit soldiers, and honestly, this appearance is crazy and makes it him stronger when it comes to his defense. And we see the example here when Cracker stabs Luffy in the stomach, but his Haki and his rubber combined is like just stops Cracker's attack right there. And his big old stomach, like, it's crazy. The witness the power of a full stomach. Luffy says it himself. That's because of the biscuits, guys. And Cracker cannot escape. And then Luffy tells Nami to stop softening the biscuits. Nami was helping out, making the water on the biscuits so Luffy could, like, of course, fight Cracker throughout the night. But when they don't know, it actually makes them leave the biscuits how they are. And this is where Cracker gets hit with a cannonball and sent to the end of the New World. This is crazy. This is the first Young Commander that Luffy actually destroys, and with such a silly form too at that too, of course. So it kind of like Moria, he was aided by Cracker's own double ability and used it against him. This is how innovative Luffy is. It's insane. We even saw the after effects, how Cracker was so messed up and gets sent flying. This for other Big Mom pirates seeing Cracker like it and finding him destroyed. So shout out Tankman, yo. Tankman was pretty cool in my opinion, yo. Probably never gonna see it because Luffy's never gonna eat that much biscuit soldiers, but I thought it was cool. Now the reason I mentioned all of these unique forms of Luffy is honestly it wasn't just solely based on haki or just solely based on his Delphin ability to come to me or the Nika no Moe, whatever you want to call it. It was just Luffy using other things to make himself stronger. And look at Hulking Island, how he ended that arc with Future Sight and Snake Man, Gear 4 Snake Man, Luffy, like that pseudo awakening that he's been doing with Gear 4, and then beating Katakuri, the vice captain, to a Yonko. That was not like what I talked about throughout this video. Or even Wano, when he's focusing on two types of advanced armament haki, the one used to not touch your opponent, which we saw that at the end of the Kaido fight, and the one of course he used to break within, which we saw of course Kaido's face with Red Rock in the beginning of the rooftop. And then there's even advanced Conqueror's haki or Conqueror's haki coding, and that changed the game entirely. And then even go crazy when it comes to Awakening, how you combine that with Awakening or Gear 5th, Nika being, of course, now people considering him the Sun God Nika, Joy Boy returning. Luffy's entire power was either a haki power up or a level or a Delphi power up throughout Wano. And this is why I think it's time. We know Luffy's reached the pinnacle of his Delphi ability and kind of the pinnacle of haki. Like, yes, he can get stronger, but still he's at the top of the top with both that. That's why he's a Yonko to this day and has a 3 billion berry bounty and he defeated Kaido. But I want Vegapunk, who knew about Gear 5th and Nika and knows so much about the Void Sentry. That's why they want to kill him, for goodness sake. He can give Luffy a suit of some sort that can help him versus a Gorosei and Saturn with a mythical Zoan that we have never seen in our entire lives. And I think if he used Gear 5th 2 times already versus Lucci, of course CP0 agent, and of course he used it against the Admiral Kizaru, I think seeing him use it again, it'll be very refreshing. If of course the biggest side effect is that he's been getting out of Gear 5th, so he has a suit that makes it longer. He can use Gear 5th longer, a special occasion, not like all the time, but just for Egghead Island. Like, I thought it was so cool when he hit Kizaru with that kick and he's wearing the design of Egghead Island. If we see a cool design from Vegapunk that helps Luffy save everyone in Egghead Island by taking out a Gorosei, the White Warrior suit is what I would call it, I would be so hype. And that's why I made this entire video. I think it's cool to add certain things, not just haki, not just Delphi abilities, but other factors to make you stronger.